for a hut entirely into its disease, however kind. They met, and the son, exhausted of collective emotion, was forced to Elara, he pleaded. Lyra was the symbol of for the recurring curse. Oath was a cyclical would die with the villagers, and but for the be tricked into seeing to be it holds it. The weaving of truth. The brave seamstress who changed Oriel, the village of Oriel, was a study in perpetual decay. Its stones were not merely old. They were burdened, sheathed in a century's worth of grey moss and a thick, mysterious atmosphere of unspoken grief. The sun was an infrequent guest, and the river, the weeping silt, flowed with a sluggishness that seemed to mimic the movements of it. The villagers themselves. For 100 years, Oriel had been living on the frayed edge of a curse, an ancient oath of loyalty to a cruel king that had exacted a terrible price, the loss of all children before their 10th birthday. In the oldest, deepest shadows of the village lived Elara. She was the last seamstress, the final practitioner of a craft both practical and mystical. Her gift was the sight, the ability to perceive the emotional residue of the past, the sharp, sad pangs of historical regret that clung to every surface in Oriel. Elara's purpose was not to sew clothes, but to temporarily mend souls. She worked with the moonbloom, a unique silvery thread harvested from the marsh, which, when woven with the sight, could absorb a concentrated sorrow and replace it with a borrowed, distant echo of joy. These garments, called amnesiacs, were the only thing that kept the village from collapsing entirely into its despair. But the amnesiacs were lies, however kind. They masked the sorrow, they did not dissolve it, and now the sorrow was rising. The moonbloom threads were growing brittle, snapping under her touch, and the sight in her mind was dimming, exhausted by the sheer volume of collective, emotional pain she was forced to process. The tipping point arrived with old man Boren, his face a map of worry lines, carrying a scrap of his late wife's weaving. Elara, he pleaded, his voice a dry whisper. Lyra turns 10 next week. Lyra was the symbol of Oriel's faint, stubborn hope. Her nearing birthday was the deadline for the recurring curse. The villagers believed the oath was a cyclical executioner, and if she died, the will to live would die with the village. We need the largest amnesiac ever woven, Borin urged. Not for clothes, but for the sunstone in the square. If the curse can be tricked into seeing only happiness in our heart, perhaps it will pass Lyra by. Elara's gaze was drawn to the master thread, the mythical original skein of moonbloom, to be hidden deep within the king's crypt beneath the sunstone. Borin, the master thread is not like the moonbloom. It holds the pure, concentrated grief of the century. To touch it is to endure the whole curse. It is guarded by the king's oath itself. Then endure it, Borin said simply, or endure watching us all fade. That night, Elara descended into the frigid, oppressive darkness of the crypt. The air itself was heavy, reeking of ozone and the condensed anguish of 100 years. The pressure on her mind was immediate and brutal. Sight became a screaming torrent of lost cries and final, confused breaths. In the center of the vault lay the silver casket. Within it, the master thread coiled, glowing with a terrible inward light, the purest essence of human sorrow. As she reached out, the king's oath manifested not as a ghost, but as a chilling, invisible force that pinned her to the stone. "Sorrow is Oriel's due," a cold, resonating voice echoed in her spirit. "Your kindness is merely the prolonging of a sentence." Elara struggled, feeling her bones grind against the stone. The oath was a manifestation of the shame the founders felt for prioritizing loyalty over their children. It fed on the villagers' refusal to confront its past. In that moment of total physical and emotional pressure, Elara understood the failure of the omniscient. They were a denial. To weave a lie of happiness now would only give the oath more power, hiding the truth yet deeper. The curse wouldn't break, it would simply wait. She had to weave the truth. With a final, desperate surge of will, fueled not by courage, but by the fierce love she suddenly felt for Lyra and all the forgotten children, she broke free and seized the master thread. The moment her skin touched the thread, a century's worth of pain, the crushing weight of the sadness, slammed into her. She became a living channel for Oriel's history. Tears that were not her own streamed down her face, and a silent psychic scream ripped through her mind. Clutching the master thread, she did not look for a needle, using the sheer power of her sight and her will. She began to weave. She wove a tapestry on the air, a spiritual pattern meant to settle onto the very sunstone above. She included the king's monstrous selfishness, the agonizing choice of the parents, and the overwhelming sadness of their loss. But within that raw, honest depiction of pain, she deliberately wove the shining, silver-white thread of unconditional love. The love that had made the terrible sacrifice possible. The love that persisted in Boren's worry for Lyra. The realization was blinding. The village wasn't cursed by the king. It was cursed by its own unforgiven love. With a final, shimmering exhale, the master thread dissolved entirely, its energy and its history now honestly laid bare. Elara crawled out of the crypt just as the sun, a real, bright, golden sun, struck the sunstone. The stone now held a faint, silver gossamer shimmer, the map of Elara's final, honest weaving. She found Boren waiting. "The sunstone?" he asked, trembling. "I didn't mend their sorrow," Elara whispered, utterly exhausted. "I made it visible. I made it true." Lyra's 10th birthday passed. No sickness, no shadow. The village did not erupt in joy. Their faces still bore the weight of history, but the oppressive, mysterious gloom was gone. The sadness was still there, but it felt different. It was clean, shared, and defined. It was no longer a curse, but a profound heritage. The brave seamstress had not changed the village with magic, but with the brutal, healing truth of its own emotional past.